Everybody, welcome back to the Road to Retirement. My name's Chris Anselmo with Brookside Tax and Financial Group, and along with me are Tony Shore from Gradient Advisors and Tony's in our office. Tony Marlette, how you doing, guys, today?
Morning.
Yeah.
Good morning. Thanks for having us on the show, Chris.
Yeah, it's tax time, so
Don't we know it?
yeah. So Tony's he's new to taxes this year, so he's learning how to do tax returns. So I was glad to see that on day 2 he showed up again because after day 1 I wasn't sure if he was coming back.
So, that's hilarious.
So at the end of day 1, I was getting ready to walk out of the office, and I told Chris, I said, he goes, "Are you coming back tomorrow?" I said, "No, it was nice knowing you. Thanks for the opportunity."
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. You guys during tax season, it gets crazy for you, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a baptism by fire, truthfully. I mean, we did a lot of prep work. They did a nice job getting me ready for it. But truthfully, kind of like everybody has seen at some point with whatever new endeavor you take on, you don't actually get the experience until you start doing it. You know, I went through simulations. I took notes. I went through the tax changes. But until you're actually doing it, it's like it's a brand new thing.
Yeah. Well, you guys, you should have went into radio and become a radio show co-host and do voiceover work like me. It's a lot easier. You don't have to worry about tax season.
Yeah, you don't have to know anything but have a good voice, right?
That's it.
So a few things tax season this year for people listening. Couple things like we have the marriage. For married people this year, you get the $600 deduction for charitable, even if you don't itemize. And for single people, it's $300. Last year was $300 for married or single, but they bumped it up for the married people.
That's good to know.
Yeah, the other things that are really the child credits. They advanced those last year, so if you got them during the year, then you're not going to get them at tax time. But we need to know what you got during the year, because it's gonna. So last year when we had all these stimulus monies that went out, they if you didn't get them, you'd get them on your tax return. If you did it wrong, they would fix it, type of thing. This year with the child tax credit, if yours is wrong on your return, they're not accepting the return. So,
wow.
Yeah, and then you're looking at delays beyond. I mean, there's delays normally, and Chris can tell you more about that than I could, but there's delays normally, and then, obviously that just adds to it if that does happen.
Sure.
Yeah. So we don't want any delays. Normally when we electronically file now, people probably get the refund within 2 weeks, so which is kind of nice, maybe 7 to 10 days even. So as everything's on the returns right, it kind of goes smoothly. But we really need to know if you got those advance payments ahead of time. So, and then there are a couple other things. In the child tax credit was really increased for people that were under over 6. It was $3,000 per child, and people were under 6. I think it was $3,600 per child. Of course, my children, your children, Tony, aren't in that range anymore. Then it was like $1,000. But
yeah. No, I only have one still at home. She's 17, but the other two are on their own.
And then they had last year they had that third economic stimulus payment. Everyone was qualified to get $1,400 last year. So depending on your income brackets, but Tony, your income bracket's so high, you would never get any of that stimulus money. Both Tonys.
Yeah, right. Yeah, all that big radio show co-host money I'm rolling in over here.
Yeah. And then something unique last year that you have to consider this year is if we could get our staff to stop talking outside the door.
Yeah. Actually, Tony could talk, and you could go shut your door to the office.
I don't know.
Mine is shut, but hold on.
I don't know if I hear it in my headset or on the speakers. I know I hear it here, but I don't know if it. Do you hear it?
Yep.
Oh, all right. Well, what do I know?
I do. He needs to. I can't believe the door is shut and you can hear them talking that
Yeah,
much.
that's strange. We had the music on. We have music throughout the office. We turned that off. It was actually getting all staticky anyway, and that was getting
Oh.
really bad. So
There's nobody out there talking. Maybe it's in your office, Tony.
yeah, I mean,
People are talking out. No, I mean
in the hallway.
Tony Shore.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh no, it's not here. It's not
Yeah.
here at all. I'm in a studio. It's very quiet. Tony, is your door open?
No.
Mine's shut.
Yeah, we turned it. I don't know.
I can hear people talking. It's weird.
There's nobody out here talking. That's kind of weird.
I mean,
So anyhow,
it might be a couple down from me if there's a meeting in the main room.
So the one thing last year that happened is when you took distributions out of your IRAs, your 401ks, or whatever, you were able to stretch it over 3 years.
Yeah, you could stretch that tax liability out over 3 years.
So remember so last year, so you took a third of it in income that year, then you're going to take a third this year, and then third next year. The caveat there is people might be under withheld for this year and next year because they took all their withholding in the first year. So you got to be careful that you have enough money paid in. So your refund, if you did that, your refund might be a little less this year because
Right.
you didn't have that extra withholding. So it's not our fault, right?
Right.
So I think that pretty much. The other thing that happened last year was if you are, I don't know if it's last year or year before, if you are still working, there used to be a rule if you were 70 and a half, you couldn't contribute to your IRAs if you were, but now they lifted it. As long as you're still working, a lot of people have side jobs and stuff when they're retired. So they, I don't know where that's coming from. So
Tony, can you pop your head outside your door and maybe
see. Let me look. Yeah.
and say, hey, can you guys ask him to move or keep it down?
Yeah.
It's got to be him. You know why? Because his mic, he's using a headset. Our mics don't pick up that external like that.
So we should actually get one of those little those radio lights that say we're on air. So maybe we can get one of those. That'd be kind of cool. Just stick it out on the door. But so that last thing, just make sure you're have some money coming back.
Yeah.
So
it's really loud.
Yeah, I don't know who it is. We have a ghost in the room because there's nobody outside our doors.
His
talking.
Yeah, the kind of mic he's using picks up everything.
So
yeah, that's the problem. We'll wait for Tony. Well, you know what? I mean, obviously, Chris, there's so many changes over the last few years since COVID to the tax system and stimulus checks. It's gotten confusing. I mean, if somebody isn't working with a professional like yourself, you have to work with a tax professional, but also a financial services professional. The great news is, I mean, your office, you're both. And so that's a huge advantage, obviously.
Maybe Tony's got a video running in the background or something. I don't know.
No, it's there's a couple of clients that are in the office next
in the lobby.
that are a little loud.
We should. I told them we should get one of those little on-air lights that come on when we're on air and put it in the lobby. So, So Mr. Shore was mentioning it's nice to work with tax professionals and financial professionals because these rules are so hard and like they're even hard for us when they first come out. I can't imagine doing it. Try to do it yourself. I mean, for as little as we charge for, we did raise our prices a little bit this year because we've held them static for the last 7 years, and we just, everything's gone up, so we had to raise it.
Sure.
So.
Well, I mean, and it's worth it. I mean, the money you could save and the mistake, because you can make costly mistakes when it comes to taxes, especially with all these changes you guys are talking about. So you want to make sure you're doing it right, especially with the child tax credits. And that just makes me roll my eyes because I know we did get some money, because of our daughter Anna. So we got something throughout the year. So I'm not sure what needs to happen on our taxes. So I'm glad we have you guys to take care of this because there's been so many changes. But I think it's even worse for those in retirement who have all these retirement accounts, right? I mean, taxable accounts and IRAs and required minimum distributions. There's a lot to keep track of, right?
Yeah, and then with all that being said, we talked about tax rates are still pretty low. So if we could, start using those tax rates. Tony, we talked about people starting Roths or doing some type of pulling money out of IRAs or tax retirement plans just to try and take advantage of the tax rates. So.
Yeah, I've been talking to people too about orders of withdrawal. Anytime we go through somebody's financial plan and I look at why the reasoning why we chose for them to draw from what accounts in what order. Obviously, a lot of that has to do with what you just said. Taxes being low right now, getting your higher tax burden like an IRA, 401k out of the way before you start liquidating a Roth or a non-qualified account. Where you pay capital gains as opposed to income. So
the
all
other
these
thing,
things taken into consideration for sure.
Yeah. The other thing later, if we try to do this even before you start collecting Social Security, because once you collect Social Security, then when you take money out of your IRAs, it causes more of your Social Security to get taxed. So every dollar you take out of your IRA, it's like you're getting taxed on $2. So,
right. I've had 2 people this year come in that have not had to do returns the previous couple of years because all they had was Social Security. Now they started to take IRA withdrawals, and those are adding up, and now all of a sudden their Social Security is taxable.
And then, some of the more sophisticated planning, we might be taking a lot out of their IRAs to maximize these brackets. And then there's the possibility they could pay more in Medicare taxes because it's kind of ridiculous. So, Tony, Mr. Shore, you probably don't know, I don't know if you know this or not, but if you make a certain amount of money, you're retired, your Medicare will cost more. So Social Security will charge you more for your Medicare.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So your
I'm like,
Security
you're not getting it.
Go down.
Yeah. I'm like, well, you're not getting any more. Why are they charging you more? Because they can't, right? So, but part of that, it's hopefully when they're dealing with us, it's not a surprise because we'll tell them that. But part of that is like, look, that's just a cost of taking advantage of these tax brackets. You're gonna pay these increase in premiums for a couple of years, but in the long run, it should be better if you can get this money out of these tax, because really we call them tax time bombs. They're sitting there waiting. And then when you leave them to your spouse or your loved ones, they may be in a higher tax bracket than you're in now, especially if your kids are still working at the time. So you really want to be tax smart about this because nobody wants to pay more taxes than they have to. And a lot of people are.
Especially in retirement. I mean, yeah. I mean, I'd rather pay taxes on that money now almost than in the future and have to pay more on all the gains and the principal. And so that's the problem with a lot of these retirement accounts. The way I see it is they're tax deferred now, which is great, right, for this year. But when I'm in retirement, then I have to start taking that money out. And then that can be, like you say, a ticking tax time bomb.
I just had a little conversation with my son yesterday. He took a new job at, I told you, he moved to Denver, took a new job. So he's been there at least 6 months now. They said you can start contributing or get into their 401k plan. And I said, hey, see if they have a 401k Roth because, you're 24 years old. That'd be great if you can have a Roth for, 50 years before you needed it. So, so he's going to check into that. So, younger people, I think it makes sense to do the Roths. When you're older, it's tough when you're retired, like you said, Tony, because, your income's generally, I don't want to say limited, but more stagnant than before. And while you're working, if you have to pay a little bit more, well, maybe you can work a little more hours or you can make a little more income. You still have a way to compensate for those extra taxes, but
it could be mental accounting. But what I've always seen is people get more, they seem to notice the taxes more when they're in retirement too, because like you mentioned, you're on that fixed income, right? Versus when you're working, you're having it deducted from your check and you don't even realize that you're missing it. Correct. So, again, it's if rates were the same when you were working in retirement, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, but at the same time, it's that mental aspect of it. And a lot of times rates are not going to be the same during somebody's working years and in their retirement.
Yeah. Well, yeah, taxes, I think we can all agree. Nobody has a crystal ball, but taxes will go up. I mean, especially the way our government is spending lately, taxes have to go up at some point, and really they're at an all-time low right now. So it's almost as if taxes are on sale.
And I'm not even sure. I mean, it kind of matters, but even if the Republicans win the next election, they may still raise taxes, right? Because I mean, they need
Well,
money.
sure.
I don't
Yeah.
think you have any choice at this
Yeah,
point.
right. So I mean, these tax rates are there till 2025, but look, they keep spending money like drunken sailors on leave. So there's somewhere they got to get some money. So
Right, and they're not going to cut spending. I mean, it doesn't matter what party's in office or who the president is. The politicians are going to spend money. The government has never cut spending; they only spend more.
Right.
And it doesn't matter what party. The party can say they're not going to raise taxes, but if you look across the board, they find a way to do it. They find a way to tax you. They do.
Look at that fancy microphone he's got, Tony. All those little wings
I know,
coming off the
I'm-
side of it. What are those
I'm
little?
jealous. Look at us. We're sitting here in our headsets.
I have mine, but you can't see it, right? But
Right.
we'll have to get Tony one. So I think we
Yeah.
have it. I think we have another mic, but we
we need to get part of the reason
we
we're
need another
hearing.
box.
Yeah, part of the reason we're hearing that background noise is because of the mic Tony's using. When you use those headsets, they pick up a lot. They're open. These mics are very directional. You have to talk right into it, and somebody out there outside my room isn't. We're never going to hear them on this mic, and so we'll get you a better mic, maybe.
I think we have another mic, but we have to get another box.
Although Tony looks pretty cool in that headset with the headset mic.
Yeah,
I like that.
I look like an offensive coordinator. I need the play sheet up here like this and holding it up to my face and looking
you
at
should
it.
be wearing a Bengals jersey.
I was going to say you look like a fighter pilot, but you might as well
offensive coordinator. Yeah.
I kind of like the fighter pilot.
Yeah,
better.
yeah, it's a little sexier. That's
Like
like
Super Bowl weekend, might as well. Yeah.
So you guys probably rooting for KC, or KC's not in it this year.
No.
God forbid. You got to root for the Bengals. Come on, Ohio team.
Well, sure. Yeah, obviously.
Cold weather team. Can't root for LA.
I was going to say that too. A lot of people look at the rivalry, Browns, Bengals, but the Bengals have been a tortured franchise for the most part for the last 30 years. I mean, they've had a couple of nice seasons. I remember when I was young, one of the first Super Bowls I remember was the Bengals and the 49ers.
Yeah, I remember that one too.
But
I think they played them twice.
They did, yeah.
The Bengals have never won a Super Bowl, though.
Right. They lost to San Francisco twice.
I think they've only been in it twice, and they've lost both of them. So I always root for the underdog when I don't have a horse in the race. My team is the Minnesota Vikings, but since they're not in it, obviously, you got to go with the
you're
Ohio
like
team.
us. You're like Cleveland. You've never had a horse in the race in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's
well,
true.
they had they've had 4 in a row, but they lost 4 in a row.
Yeah, Vikings have been in it 4 times. Lost 4 times. So
Super Bowls
in a row, 4 in a row.
No,
no, that's a 4 in a row. That was Buffalo.
Buffalo, but we lost 4, but we had a couple of years.
That was before Tony was born.
Yeah, this is before my time.
Yeah,
Buffalo,
Fran Tarkington, and
were those NFL championships or were those actual Super Bowls?
They were Super Bowls.
Were they really?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Super Bowls.
Yeah. Yep. So, Tony, you want to talk a little bit about what's going on in the market?
Yeah. Just this morning, we got a report about 7% inflation, actually 7.3% in January, which is a 4-decade record.
Wow.
So, I mean, really, these things, I talk about them on our market updates all the time. I kind of feel like it's the same story. It's not really going anywhere, although some of these COVID restrictions are being eased a little bit. I'm sure for varying reasons, but it doesn't matter. The restrictions from that and the shutdowns or any even rumor of that, I think at this point, unless things get worse, really is kind of.
And I think a lot of it's still supply chain related, right?
So that's the other issue is supply chain, right?
Pure economics. You don't have the supply, you raise the prices, right?
Right.
So.
Well, that's amazing, though. The inflation is the highest it's been in 40 years, like since the 80s. That's crazy.
Yeah, we've never seen numbers like this. So that's really affecting everything. I'm wondering, too, we just saw Treasury rates yesterday hit 1.9% on a 10-year, which, I mean, historically...
It still sounds low, but
it is low. It's very low.
But
if we go above, I know historically the number is around 3 or 4%, but I think if we go right now 2.25% on a Treasury, you're going to see people pulling money out of the market, and that's going to lead to a market drop. So there's other things to consider. You have inflation, you have supply chain, and you have the Fed. I don't even think COVID's in the top three anymore. That's just where we're at. I mean, with the Fed potentially raising rates, I've heard anywhere from 3 times this year to 7 times. I think 7 is far-fetched, but we're going to get at least 3. When rates go up, existing bond prices go down, people tend to take money out of the market. Like we said, savings accounts tend to look a little more appealing. So really it's kind of a perfect storm. I've said really from the beginning of this year, I expect volatility, a gradient. We expect volatility. I know, talking to a few of their people, we could finish the year on a positive note, but it's not going to be without volatility.
Yeah, we, in several years, we've been using, index annuities as a bond strategy because bonds are just, the rates are so low. And for the listeners, you might not know, but it sounds counterintuitive, but as rates go up, bond values go down. So, and we could explain in another show, but so why take that risk? I mean, bonds are paying less than 1% for some of these. Why would you take the risk on your money when you could use an insurance product, have no risk, and probably earn somewhere between 2 and 5% or something like that. So that's been kind of the strategy over the last probably 6 or 7 years as rates have been down. So
I've been talking to people a lot about rethinking that 60-40 or even 70-30 portfolio, stocks, bonds. There's really different ways to do that now.
Like some of our strategy, if it's 60-40 stock bonds, we'll take the 40%. Put in something safe where you can't lose any money because the bonds are kind of risky right now.
Bonds have been so bad too. They've just been so bad for so long now.
So they were negative last year. And again, talking to a few people over at Gradient, they expect negativity in 2022 for bonds.
So I got to tell you a little story. I was at the $1 Million Mines thing in Dallas last week, and a bunch of Gradient people came in, and I didn't know this, but I figured as a tell the listeners, did you know there's a difference between a direct flight and a nonstop flight?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there is, but I mean, so our buddy Tom Harper was coming in from Tampa, and he had a direct flight. So he gets off the plane, gets his luggage, can't find his luggage. He's in Houston. He's like, Houston, I thought I had a direct flight to Dallas. He goes, well, you do. You weren't supposed to get off the plane. It's like, well, that doesn't sound direct because you're stopping, right? So by the time now he's got to go through baggage, he's got to go through security again. By the time he gets back to the plane left. So we, so he had to get another plane to Dallas. And
nonstop means nonstop, but direct means you could stop once or twice, but your plane is going. Your final destination of your plane is where you're going.
Yeah,
and you don't get off the plane, but they do stop.
Yeah, they should not. They should not call that nonstop. So
or direct.
They shouldn't call it direct because it doesn't sound direct. Yeah. So all you listeners out there, if you have a direct flight, don't get off your plane.
That's crazy. So the $1 Million Mines, that's some of the nation's top financial advisors and financial services professionals getting together to talk about what's going on, what they've been doing to help their clients. I think that's great that you do that, Chris, to stay updated. Any interesting news? What were those folks talking about?
The real concept there is, how can we better serve the client? What can we do internally to better serve the client? It really wasn't about, products or anything like that. It was just, how do you run your office better? Everything to make the client experience better, right? So hopefully that the clients will not only love what you're doing for them, but will tell all their friends and neighbors, right? Because you're giving some such great service and such great support that they wouldn't want to go elsewhere. So that's really the whole mind. It's really changing your mindset. That's why it's called $1 Million Mind. So tweaking your organization to have a better client experience.
Yeah, you work for your clients. I mean, that's who you guys work for, right. Tony and Chris. So I know that that's been your focus, and I think that's great, and it's what sets you apart. So, we saw January was a bad month in the markets, and Tony, you're talking about high inflation and possible market volatility throughout this year. Is there any good news anywhere in here?
Yeah, honestly, there is. Tony, the economy is still strong. Business valuations are still good. People are spending money. The economy and businesses continue. Well, the markets really, when you do see positivity, it's because markets are following fundamentals. Business
Sure.
earnings are still strong, valuations are still strong, companies are beating expectations still. So there is a lot of positivity in there, yes. And I mean, the American consumer is spending money, people are investing, and things are continuing to remain somewhat efficient in light of everything else that's going on.
I know my wife's spending money on her dog. I didn't know there was a Chewy box I emptied yesterday. Did you know there's rock salt for dogs or for pets?
Is this so
Yep.
they don't eat it?
No, so they don't. It doesn't hurt their feet. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, what?
Yeah.
So we got a whole bin of rock
Yep.
salt that's pet friendly. So
Yep.
like, oh my goodness.
Same at our house. Yep. You can't use it as a regular salt to melt the ice on the driveway or the snow. You've got to use Pet Safe. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I didn't know if it was something, if it was more, less damaging if they ate it.
oh, it may be.
Nope.
Maybe
It's mainly for their feet, though.
yeah.
Interesting.
So it's funny though, when Chewy boxes come to the house, the dog knows it's for him. Like he goes up, smells it,
Our dog
puts
does
his
too.
puts his
That's
paw
funny.
on it and stuff.
Yep.
So
Yep.
All
Our
right.
dog gets excited too when the Chewy box comes. I don't know how they know. Their noses are great, I guess.
so we're about out of time. So Tony, want to take us out? I guess.
Sure. Well, it's been a great discussion. It's good to talk about taxes and, of course, look at what the market's doing. And always great to have Tony on the show. Christopher, thanks, guys, for having me on the show. And that does it for okay. Show name. Make sure I don't get this wrong.
The road to retirement.
I almost said I want to say Brookside Tax. That does it for Brookside Tax and Financial.
There you go.
No, the show name is Road to Retirement. Thanks for tuning in with our host, Christopher Anselmo.
All right. See you guys.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks.